what we do here is go back.
And there we go. Hopefully we should be live. So this is a slightly different stream than usual, and I've just realised I haven't muted my PC. Hang on a second. Hang on a mo. Right, that's better. Now we're muted. Totally unprofessional, as per usual. This is Mike, Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on tonight's stream we're going to go through and answer some of your questions. Some of the questions we get on our YouTube channel, they're not really the easiest of things to answer, sometimes just in a kind of like a text message. So I thought I'll try and do this as a live stream, answer some of your questions, give you some answers, and hopefully if you're a regular viewer and you're watching, then you can check out what's going on and you can actually see and interact with us on the questions that we've got. So what I'm using is there's a tool from TubeBuddy, which is a program I use in conjunction with making all the YouTube videos and stuff. But there's a section there so I can go into comments and I can filter to questions that I haven't answered or haven't responded to. There's also options so I can go to ones which need a response that have been replied to and all that kind of stuff. But what I thought I'd do is go through the ones that I've already got, have a look, see what's going on, and let's say try and give you some answers to your questions. So let's get straight into it. Now this is going to be mostly, from what I can tell already from looking at this, is mostly going to be about Fitbit questions, Airpod questions, and questions about motherboards. That is going to be pretty much it. Now if in future when you're watching any of our videos you want your question actually answered in a live stream, all you need to do is in your comment just type the word live in capitals at the beginning and then do your question, and then I'll try in the future to answer those during these live streams. So let's kick straight off. So the first one is come from a viewer called Hannah Lee. Now Hannah Lee watched the Fitbit sync issues video, which was a fix for sync problems with Fitbits with Android devices, and Hannah's question or comment was, it still doesn't work even though I restarted both devices. I guess I'll try again. So this is actually a really common thing with Fitbit devices. They are really problematic with synchronizing, more so it seems with Android devices than iOS devices, purely down to the fact that iOS is a really tight knit ecosystem, so they can do tests on it and see what works and what doesn't, and they can fix problems pretty easy with software updates. With Android, because there's so many different devices, it's a very difficult thing to do, especially with things like Bluetooth timeouts and that kind of thing. Huawei phones were very problematic with this, with their really aggressive power saving, and they would kill off the Bluetooth. So Hannah, all I can say really is you haven't mentioned what phone you're using to synchronize with or what device it is, so I can't give you specific advice for that. What I will say is with all Fitbit things and with phones, the best thing to do is to turn the device off completely, both the tracker and also whatever it is you're synchronizing with. Eventually it will sync as long as the hardware is okay. That is one of the bigger problems with Fitbit. The actual Bluetooth hardware is very custom made and they don't seem to have a great deal of longevity. I've found devices have failed within 1 year, a couple of years. My Surge was the longest lasting one, that lasted quite a while, but eventually that one gave up the ghost as well. So you may find it's just time for a new device. But do let us know what devices you're using and we will try and help you out a little bit further, either in the stream or in the comments. So the next one comes from Rossi. Now Rossi has asked a question. Now this was in response to the i12 TWS factory reset video for the Blue Stripe version. Rossi says, my box gets charged but I can't turn it on after charging. Pressing the button does nothing. Please help. Now often with these AirPod devices, i10s, i12s, i13s to some extent as well, because they were of the kind of the first generation of clones, they did have a lot of problems, a lot of problems, and especially because there are so many different manufacturers making copies of copies, the quality control wasn't great, so some of them are particularly bad. You're saying here your box gets charged, but I can't turn it on after charging. So plenty of things can be going wrong there. So if your Lightning or USB connector that you're plugging into the bottom of the box isn't making a decent contact, the light actually will come on the box to say that it's connected and it is charging, but because of there being resistance actually in the cable or the box, it won't actually charge the onboard battery. So first thing I would suggest for you to do is to remove the USB cable, thoroughly clean it with some rubbing alcohol or some kind of aftershave or something like that. Anything with a high alcohol content is really good to use. Obviously make sure you disconnect this from the mains or from your power socket before you try it, because you don't want to go frying anything, so make sure it's actually disconnected before you do that. But a quick spray with an aerosol, like a Lynx deodorant can, that kind of thing, or some aftershave, wipe the contacts off. Also try using like a wooden toothpick or some kind of sharp plastic object and get into the contact box, into where it makes contact, and just give it a good clean out. Make sure there's no dirt or debris in there, which could be preventing the circuit making a full and proper contact. If once you've charged the box and you remove the cable, if you press the button and nothing's happening, there's two things that could be happening here. One, it could be the button itself is broken or damaged, so you've got some internal issues that you need to resolve, and in which case there's not really a great deal you can do from that. The best thing for you to do is to try and do an RMA or a return to the original seller or manufacturer and see if you can either get your money back or get a replacement. If you bought them through either Nokia's, Spinning Deal, ET Maxter and some of those other ones that we've used in the past, then generally they're very good. Hit them up on the social media, get in contact with them, and generally they'll sort it out for you very quickly. Try those things and let us know how you get on, Rossi. Hopefully that's been helpful for you. So let's have a look, what else have we got? Now this one's come from Mr. Monkey Jump. Now Mr. Monkey Jump has left a question again on a factory reset or language change for the i12 TWS. You see there's a pattern established in here. So Mr. Monkey Jump has said, when I try to factory reset one of the earbuds, in brackets because it doesn't work, the red light never comes up. What can I do? So again, this is one of those really common things, especially with the i11s, i12s. They are very problematic, unfortunately, especially as time has gone on and because of the various clones. Now you haven't said which ones you've actually got and who you got them from, so I can't help you with that. But again, if you can't reset them for some reason, you say the red light never comes up, do any of the lights come up? Do you get any noise, any confirmation? So if you take the bud out of the box and you put it into your ear, do you hear either the English or Chinese language saying power on or pairing or anything like that at all? You haven't actually said if you're getting anything at all out of it, so it's a little bit difficult. But again, what you can do, if for some reason the eardot or AirPod isn't charging, again, like I said to the previous question, just get some alcohol or some kind of body sprays. They've got loads of alcohol content in them, a little bit of aftershave. Get it onto a cotton bud or a Q-tip. If you're in America, you'll know what that is. And try and actually clean the contacts inside the charging case. That pretty much 99% of the time will sort it out. Just cleaning up all those contacts, making sure that everything's nice and clean, and actually look at the prongs and make sure they are able to make contact with the kind of the charging ring on the AirPod. That then should work. Leave the box on charge for a couple of hours just to make sure it's got 100% battery. Put the pods in, leave them in there to charge. Again, a couple of hours just to make sure they have got a full charge. And hopefully that should remedy your problem. You should then get your lights come up. But again, you haven't said whether you're getting the blue light on them, which I think some of them did as well. So they had a blue and red flashing light when they're pairing. But I say give those things a go and see what happens. Hopefully that'll sort you out.
Somebody's asking in the comments, is the i9000 the same as the i500? Should they ask that in a question?
Right, Kath's just saying to me now there's some questions coming in. I haven't actually got the other chat open, so I can't see them at the moment. What I'll do is when we get towards the end of this question and answers, I will go into the chat section and scroll through, and I'll try and answer some of your current questions just to go through. The particular question that Kath just asked me, is the i9000 the same as the i500? I'm completely honest, I don't know the answers to that. I would presume I don't think they are. They work in similar ways, most of these AirPods, but again, we'll come on to that a little bit later and I'll try and give you an answer for that. And also I'll try and get the chat box up so I can say hello to some of you for joining us tonight. So the next one is, actually this isn't AirPod related. Whey, here we go, something that isn't AirPod related. Eve Shelton has commented on the video, save 50% on Amazon. Now this is the video I did on the VPON website, which actually if you haven't tried, VPON is fantastic. You can get 50% or more off of Amazon prices just from clearance lines, that kind of thing. Really, really good place to go. So definitely check it out if you can. But Eve said, how is VPON with returns? What is the returns process? Now this is a really easy one to answer actually. The VPON site itself doesn't have a returns process because they're just forwarding links from their site to Amazon's main site. So if you're buying something from VPON, effectively you're buying it directly from Amazon and you use your Amazon affiliates. You use your you use your Amazon account and all your details. So it is essentially as if you're buying directly from Amazon. They're not a third party, they don't do any of the shipping or anything like that. They're literally providing links to these discounts. So the returns process will be exactly the same as it is for you with normal Amazon products. Yeah, if you're trying to buy something from there, ideally make sure it's something which is actually like FBA or fulfilled by Amazon. Those are the best ones to go for. Some of the other sellers on Amazon may not have quite such a good warranty, but generally, more times than not, you'll find that Amazon actually does a really good job. Even if it's one of their third-party sellers, they look after you and they'll normally do any returns. Obviously, you've got a 1-year warranty in England, in the EU, stuff like that. But again, do check with the seller first. Look in the description as well, see what their returns policy is for the individual seller on Amazon. But generally, Amazon will try and look after you as best they can because they don't want to lose customers. So VPON don't do anything in regard to ordering or returns. Literally, they are a kind of like a pass-through or an intermediary. They're introducing you to offers. And essentially, VPON are employed by the Amazon sellers to list their products to try and clear inventory. That is basically what it's all about. So hopefully, Eve, that answers your question. See, that's not a question. Actually, Matthew Day has asked a question, or slightly made a comment, but it's more of a question, I suppose. This is in regard to the video we released today, actually, for the InWin Alice case. The question or comment was, it might be a squeeze to get a DVI or VGA cable in the top. Those thick cables do not turn very sharply. Some USB plugs have a pretty long strain relief too. Now this is in conjunction with, like I said, the InWin Alice case, which kind of has the I/O coming out the top of the case and then comes out on a right angle to wherever it needs to go. That is actually a very good comment. I haven't got around to building it yet, so I don't know what the answer is to that. I would imagine it's one of those things they've already tested and had a look at already, but again, when we do the build on that, we'll definitely answer that question fully, but that is something that I have also considered as well, that it could be potentially a problem, so we'll definitely be looking into that. Next question comes from Shotplay's gaming channel. This is in respect to the i11 TWS. This is the factory reset video we did a while back. And Shotplay's question is, my right one blinks red once when I'm charging and then it doesn't charge or work. Please help. So again, i11s, i12s, they all work in pretty much the same way. Excuse me. And essentially, it comes down to making sure that all the contacts are making contact. If you're 100% sure that the contacts are completely clean and the pods are going in fully and they're actually touching the contacts and there is some kind of proof that you can see that the pods are charging, either a blue light or red light, depending on the version you've got. If they make contact and they look like they're charging, but then when you take them out, they're completely flat, then that is going to be an internal problem with the little 30 or 35 milliamp hour battery inside of the pods. And there isn't really a great deal you can do with that. If it looks like it's charging, but it fails to charge, then that is an internal failure. And all you can do, unfortunately, in that case is, well, you can if you want to be adventurous, especially with the i11s, they're a little bit more cheaply made. So you could actually use a trimming knife and cut them open and actually make sure that the battery is making contact. But to be completely honest with you, it's a real faff. It's not easy to do. It's very small electronics in there and you could potentially damage something even more so. The best thing for you to do is, in that case, I would say, is to try and return them if you've exhausted all the other options like cleaning it all up. So Shotplay's gaming channel, hopefully that answers your question. Again, this is another question from Galaxon. Pretty much the same thing. This is on the Airpod and i10 TWS charging fixes. Galaxon says, when I plug in my case to the charger, my case doesn't light up. So again, you can try a different cable, make sure that it's a good quality cable. Actually, with lightning cables as well, it's very, very common these days with lightning cables, even the original Apple ones, that if you put them in one way, they don't charge properly. Take it out, put it in 180 degrees, plug it in the other side, and quite often it will actually start charging. This is normally down to the actual pins where they should be like that. They become slightly offset so they don't touch properly, so if you spin it around it works properly. Again, try clean up all your contacts, try a new cable, make sure that your power source is okay, make sure that whatever you're plugging it into, say for instance you're plugging it into a wall socket or you've got a mains charger, try plugging it into a laptop or some other USB source just to make sure you are definitely getting power there. That is about all I can say for that, but again, it's the same deal, just make sure that all your contacts are clean and everything's working as it should do. Next one is a case related one. This is from Ian Moon. Now Ian Moon asked this about 6 hours ago, so this is going to be a pretty quick answer for you. So Ian's asked a question on the GameMax solar case which we reviewed a while back. He says, "Hi, I love the case and love the review." Well, thanks Ian, appreciate that. Anyway, did you find a purpose for the 4 holes above the VGA holder? They are in such a weird pattern that I can't find any use for them. I've got to be honest with you, the GameMax Solar I don't have anymore. I actually got rid of that case, so I can't have a double check on it. From what I can remember, it just looked like it was another way of optionally mounting the VGA holder. I couldn't see any other real reason for it. I suppose if you've got a motherboard which has a slightly higher VGA slot on the motherboard, which some possibly do, some have lower ones definitely. But yeah, I didn't see anything particularly obvious for that, so sorry I can't answer your question, I don't know the answer, but if any of you have got the GameMax Solar case or have used the GameMax Solar case and you know the answer, feel free to jump into the comments on that GameMax Solar review and help poor old Ian out and let him know what's going on. And here we go, we're back to another i10 TWS video. So this is a question from Aviante Boss. Simple question, mine's making a bleeping noise. Now you haven't said what is making a bleeping noise. I'm presuming it's going to be your Airpods. This is actually on the Nokia's i10 one TWS, so hopefully if you have actually bought the Nokia's ones, the i10 TWS, then they should be able to help you out with a problem, with a solution or possibly an exchange depending when you bought them. The i10s are getting a little bit older now, so they're a best part of 2 years old, so they might just be out of warranty. So you may be on your own with that one, but if it's just making a bleeping noise, probably need a little bit more information than that to work out what is going on. If it's a constant bleeping noise, that is quite often when the touch sensor has failed and it just keeps on thinking it's being pressed. Again, let us know a little bit more information and we will try and help you out there. But again, best thing you can do, clean up all the contacts, do a factory reset. There is a factory reset video we did for the i10, so you can definitely try that, worth a go. But again, yeah, you haven't said where or why it's making a bleeping noise in conjunction with what, so let us know some more information and we will do what we can to help you. That's another i10's one. Actually, this is from, I'm not even sure, the Stupid Seba Student, I think the name is. And the question is, this is in relation to the factory reset or language change on the i12 TWS. And the question is, okay, so my i12s only connect one bud and the other one doesn't appear at all. Any fix for that? It's like both separate earphones. Now, potentially, again, you haven't said where you got them from or which model they are exactly. There were a lot of i12s in the beginning where they came out and they actually did appear as 2 Bluetooth devices. So you had to pair with one or the other. That was for the single mode. And if you want to use them together, you had to reset them and then reconnect as a combined unit. There are also slightly more shady people who've been selling AirPods on the market where they're obviously faulty and they've just put in 2 pods from completely different manufacturers just to clear them out. So again, you haven't said where you've got them from. Yeah, it's possible that they are actually 2 separate ones. My question, I suppose, to you would be, did they ever work? Have you ever had them working properly from day one? If you've never had them working properly from day one, then it's either faulty hardware or it's a little bit of a scam. So check with your supplier, seller, see what they say, if they offer you any solutions. Again, depending which version of i12 it is, there's a lot of them work in different ways. They may just need a factory reset and they'll be absolutely fine. But do check out the factory reset or language change for the blue label i12s and also the red label i12s, and you can try both methods and see which one works for you. So hopefully that goes some way to answering your question. Next one is in relation to the Chrome black screen fix, which quite a few of you have actually suffered from, and that was quite a popular video. And this is coming from Sean Nana. The question is, hey Mike, I tried to fix the black screen with the 3 dots and exit and stuff, but it didn't work. What should I do? So if you're still having the black screen fix, essentially what that comes down to is hardware support. So the black screen is generally where Chrome is trying to use hardware support or 3D acceleration support from your graphics card, and for some reason the drivers are either wrong or it's just corrupted in Chrome. So there's a couple of options you can do. One would be to run sfc.exe in your operating system, just make sure your system files are okay, all that kind of stuff. You could run check disk as well, just to make sure. That's always a good idea. Another thing you can do is to uninstall Chrome in its entirety, go into the registry and remove your Chrome entries, and then reinstall Chrome as a fresh. When you reinstall Chrome the first time though, don't log in as your user profile, your usual user profile. Just go in and use it as a completely new user. Quite often there's cases where actually the corruption is within your user profile itself rather than Chrome, which can be a little bit of a pain to find out. But if you go into it without logging into it and Chrome works as it should do and you don't get the black screen, then you can try logging in with your profile. If you then get the black screen, then it's definitely something in your setup. So the best thing you can do is to go into the Chrome settings, log out of the account, go into Chrome settings as a new user, and then reset Chrome, and then hopefully reset your profile as well at the same time. But essentially that is the best thing you can do, just reset your profile back to basics, or disable hardware acceleration, which is another really good fix for the Chrome black screen.
Avanti Boss has just come on, you just answered his question, didn't you?
All right. Kath's just saying Avanti Boss has just come on and is got an update. I'm going to open up the other window actually so I can see what's going on.
Mine makes a beeping noise.
So that's the one that makes the bleeping noise. So let us know a little bit more about your bleeping noise. Does it happen with the Airpods actually in the charging bay? That's quite a useful one. Let me just get the chat open a minute. Pop out chats, there we go. Actually, I'm not sure if that's going to work. I need a bigger laptop. Okay, so let's move that to the side. There, we've got both windows open now, so that's all good. Right, okay, let's quickly move on to another. This is actually from Michael Myers. Hopefully it's not the Michael Myers, because Michael Myers was a scary person from a horror movie. But anyway, this is the Fitbit Aria Wi-Fi scale reset. Now this is obviously going to be completely over most people's heads because this is quite a niche product, which is how to get around the obstacle when connecting the scale to a Wi-Fi router SSD. It chokes at the point when connecting to the Fitbit Aria scale. The same issue with a smartphone or laptop and the scale is in active setup mode. Google Chrome browser produces the error. The error is scale.Fitbit scale setup refused to connect. I've got to be honest with you, I've not come across that before. That is an odd one. The only thing you can do with the Fitbit Aria scale is take all the batteries out and leave them out for a long time, and that does a complete reset because all of it is stored actually in volatile memory. So if it loses power, it loses everything. So leave the batteries out maybe overnight, 7-8 hours or whatever, let it go completely flat, and then put the batteries back in and then try and do a fresh setup. That has worked for quite a few people, so maybe give that a go. If it's for some reason you're still using a router which has got 5 GHz and 2.4 GHz, you really do have to disable that 5 GHz spectrum on your router. And if you can't disable it, temporarily rename the 5 GHz side of it to something completely different so the two don't get confused. This was a really big problem with a lot of early Wi-Fi smart devices where dual band routers just weren't compatible and they had to be 2.4 GHz. So because the RF scale is quite old now, it really does need that 2.4 GHz and doesn't like any interference from the 5 GHz range. So definitely disable that on your router if you possibly can. So hopefully that's answered that, or at least given you something to try. Trying to see, you have put some other information on there which maybe it's being blocked. Okay, so proxy. So yeah, as long as you shouldn't be using a proxy ideally if you can help it with Chrome, unless you're in a business environment, which if you're using a scale, it's probably going to be at home. So make sure you don't have any proxy settings. You shouldn't have any problems. Again, depending which country you're in, some countries have issues connecting to Fitbit.com. So you may actually even have to go into your router and add a whitelist or a rule so that port 80 is open for Fitbit.com just so it can communicate. It shouldn't really need to be done with if you've got UPnP enabled on your router. It should just go straight through, but in some cases you may need to do that. Okay, give those things a try and let us know how you get on. So another question on the i12 TWSs now. Hopefully we're going to get onto some PC related stuff soon for those of you that are waiting for PC related stuff. This has come from Sapo Oceanico. Hey? Yeah, it's worth the entry fee just to see me struggle over that one. So Sapo Shini, oh, you know you are. SAPOOCEANICO. Sapo Shino. Yeah, please use a better username. That's really difficult. Now this is in relation to the i12 TWS factory reset. They're saying I've got a problem where the left earbud plays the right earbud soundtrack and vice versa. So left is right and right is left. I can't seem to solve this problem with the reset. Any ideas on how to solve this? Now I did see actually somebody else kind of had a go at answering this question, and they said that the problem is with your ears. Your ears are on back to front. Obviously they're not. But this actually was a really common thing with the the i10 TWS when they first came out, that the audio was reversed. And unfortunately, there isn't anything you can do about it. It was one of those early manufacturing defects which no one picked up on because we were so used to listening in stereo. It wasn't until you actually had something which was kind of shifting left to right, or maybe if you're watching something like some action movie where the sound went from left to right, it would be reversed and it would be really confusing. There isn't an easy way of doing it. There is pieces of software you can get for Android which will do channel reversing. I think in iOS you can do something similar, but I think it's more of a balance thing now than swapping it around. All I can say is, unfortunately, there isn't anything you can do physically in the hardware to change this. It was just one of those things that was part of the design. It was a design fault. If you've bought them recently, I would suggest, obviously if it's a big problem, send them back. Alternatively, you're just going to have to live with it, I'm afraid. There's not a great deal you can do. Obviously, if you're watching pre-recorded stuff, it's difficult. If you're making your own content, then obviously you could switch the audio channels, but yeah, not an ideal situation. So essentially, live with it or return them. That is about all you can do on that, I'm afraid. Let's have a look, see what else we've got here. Try and we'll give it a rest for some of these AirPod questions for a while. So this is a question from PC Support Tech Hub. Now this is in relation to the memory management error fix video we did probably about this time last year actually. PC Support Tech Hub is saying, I get this error a lot, but when I run Windows Memory Diagnostic, it says my RAM is fine. So if you're running Windows Memory Diagnostic and it says your RAM is fine, then that pretty much says what you need to know. So your RAM is fine. If you're getting memory management errors, it's possibly coming from a program either trying to incorrectly write to addressed areas of RAM already. So Windows will blue screen of death or crash if there's a memory address which is in use already, and if another program comes along and says, right, I need to write there, and it writes there, that will cause a blue screen of death. Normally this is down to shoddy programming. So if you're running Windows Memory Diagnostic and it says your RAM is fine, there are things like memtest you could run, which is a standalone program. You can run that from a USB flash drive, that kind of thing, or the high-ren disk. I would say give that a try, run that on its own. That way you can completely rule out the Windows operating system as being any kind of interference. But essentially the Windows Memory Diagnostic, if you're running it from a boot disk or USB, it will be doing pretty much the same thing. Another thing you can do is the Windows Memory Diagnostic doesn't often, it does use the RAM, but it doesn't stress it in a massive way. So if you use something like memtest, you can actually get it to do more advanced memory tests, or even actually saying that, the Windows Memory Diagnostic, I'm pretty sure there was 3 options, like a normal or a light, standard, and advanced. If you do the advanced one or the high-end one, it will stress the memory quite a lot more. It does run for a long time, but it might be worth running that just to kind of double check that your RAM is actually bad. The only other thing you can do as well is if you're getting your memory errors or memory management DLL fix, whatever it is, try and see what programs are open when you're doing that, and try and run Windows with a minimal set of programs. So close down anything you're not particularly using or anything that might be running in the background. Quite often, I find this from my own experience on mending people's PCs, if there's a cracked version of software running in the background, Office was always a big pain. Things like the activators and cracks, if they're running in the background, if you've got any of those or had any of those, because the way they're written, obviously they're designed to crack the software, they're not designed to work with the rest of the system. So you may find that could be your culprit. So if you're running any hooky or dodgy or pirated software, definitely that is the first thing to remove from your system. It can cause problems. I know this firsthand. I've tried it myself, and programs have done it, and I've done it actually as a proof of concept that running a genuine copy of Office against like a dodgy cracked one or a activated one, totally, it's a night and day experience. Very, very buggy with the cracked version. Obviously a little bit buggy still with the genuine Microsoft version because it's not perfect, but generally you don't get as many problems, and definitely don't get the blue screens and stuff like that. So PC Support Tech Hub, I hope that answers your question. Let's have another question. This is more of a statement actually than this is the KP Pros, Nokia's KP Pros. I commented in the video that they come with a USB-C to Lightning cord, which I found a little bit of a pain, a little bit odd, seeing that most people are still on USB Type A connections. Mitchell Wilson's just said the real AirPod Pro come with USB-C to Lightning cord. That's why these did. So yeah, I totally get that. It just seems like, for convenience, USB-C still isn't mainstream. In fact, actually, let's have a show of hands. How many of you out there have actually got USB-C ports on your computers? I would imagine it's less than 50%. So, anyway, moving on. Where else have we got? That's another AirPods one. We'll leave that alone for now. Okay, here's a good one. This is from Shane Wilbur. This is in response to the cheap or trash. This is the Prime A320K.M, I think it was. That was the real budget AMD AM4 board. Shane's question is, this might be he actually says, this may be a stupid question, but I'm new to PC building. Does anyone know what kind of RAM would be good for this motherboard? Now, Shane, the easiest thing to do if you want to work out what RAM is going to work 100% with your motherboard is if you go to ASUS's website, look up the motherboard, and in the tabs you'll see there's sections for downloads and support and all that kind of thing. So click on the support tab and you'll see there's a QVL, or qualified vendors list. Now that will tell you which vendors or which manufacturers have made components that go on this board, which ASUS have tested in their laboratories with their white coats on and glasses and all that kind of stuff. And they've actually taken the RAM modules and they've tried them on the boards. So if you go there, you'll find guaranteed 100% compatibility. So just look down the list, look for a brand, copy and paste it into Amazon and see if you can find it, or to wherever you're shopping. That's the best way of finding out what would be good RAM for that board. Alternatively, essentially you can pretty much go for most modern RAM, in complete honesty. It's very rare these days now with AMD's better memory management and better memory support in the chips themselves. It's not as bad as it used to be, where people would buy RAM and it just wouldn't work, it was incompatible. Generally, most RAM is good now. Corsair's LPX RAM generally works all the time. There's various other brands. G-Skill are generally very good. But essentially, if you're not sure, look on the qualified vendors list. Otherwise, you can pretty much take a risk with G-Skill or Corsair RAM and it should work absolutely fine. Again, if you've got a list of RAM that you're potentially thinking of buying, feel free to join us on the Discord and you can have a chat with us and we can see which is going to be more compatible or more likely to be compatible, all those kinds of things. But essentially the QVL list is the place to go. Now this is one actually on a headset. Now this is from Do the Evolution 78, and this is in response to the giveaway we did actually at the weekend, which was for the MSI GH30s. The question is, hello Mike, I have a question for you, perhaps you may have an answer. Well, let's hope so, but I'm reading ahead and I don't think I have. When it comes to headsets that have 7.1 digital sound, do you have any particular headsets in mind that work with Microsoft 7.1 spatial sound? In your opinion, what's the best headset that will work with 7.1 spatial sound in Microsoft Windows Virtual? Yeah, that doesn't make sense, but that's how I read it. Anyway, quite honestly, I have not used any 7.1 digital headphones, so I am not the right person to be asking that question. But hopefully, if there's any of you that have actually got a set that you recommend and you've used with the Windows surround sound, the virtual spatial sound, please feel free to leave a comment on Do the Evolution 78's post on the headphones video and see if there's anything else you can suggest. I would say if I was going to kind of hedge my bets anywhere, I would probably go with the Corsair headsets. They generally tend to be very good and get very good results. I don't think you can go too wrong with pretty much any Corsair products, especially if there's kind of the 7.1 digital range. But again, if any of you have got some better advice, please feel free to chip in. Let's have a look. What else have we got? This is from the Inaudible Pepe. This is in response to, surprisingly, the i12 TWS factory reset video. So this question is, why does my left AirPods turn on then power off? Now, could be two real main reasons, one of which is the battery's not charging properly. So again, we go back to the earlier comments where just make sure you've got all the contacts clean, get some alcohol, a Q-tip, and make sure that all contacts are nice and clean and everything is actually physically making contact. Sometimes the prongs in the bottom of the charging case could be slightly bent. It's unlikely, but it's worth giving it a go. You could even just get a wooden toothpick and just try and bend the prongs upward a little bit just so they make contact. Another way of finding out actually if they're making contact is if you drop the earbuds in, make sure when they go in, they actually go all the way down. If you can give them a little tap and they go down a little further, like a few more millimeters, generally it's because they're not going fully in, so that could certainly help. Quite often when you close the lid doesn't push the pods right in anyway, so it might be just the fact it's not going all the way into the charging case, so it's not making a good contact. So if need be, actually physically press and hold both of the pods into the charging case, hold it there for a little while, or just get something to hold it in place, maybe even a little bit of cotton wool or something in the top of the case, the lid, close the lid just so it's making a good contact. Try that, let it charge for half an hour or so and see how they perform then. If it's still doing the same thing, it's quite possibly the touch sensor's bad, in which case it thinks that it's being held. So as soon as it comes out of the box, it goes power on, then a couple of seconds later power off, and then it'll probably cycle through power on, power off, power on, power off, until the battery is exhausted basically. So it thinks the touch sensor is being completely pressed. Unfortunately, there's no real fix for that. If the sensor's bad in the AirPods, all you can do is try and return them to the manufacturer you got them from if they're under warranty, or if not, unfortunately, it's probably going to be time to get a new set. Hopefully that goes some way to answering your question. Now this is a question based on the cheap or trash board again. Again, this board has been really popular. As the budget end of the market does seem to get a lot of questions. So this is from Canavlos 80. This is 2 days ago, so I do apologise for getting back to you late. The question is, I have an Athlon 200 GE with a decent cooler and 2 times 4 gigs of RAM at 2400. This motherboard has the ability to overclock after a certain BIOS version, CPU and memory at 2667. It doesn't. Effectively, the A320 chipset is pretty much locked as is. You might find that some motherboards have got a little bit of flexibility where you can set an XMP profile in the RAM, but that will be about it. There doesn't really exist any overclocking frequencies in that board, especially for that chip. With some motherboards, they did actually unlock the 200 GE, but that would have been with the B350 or B450 or higher chipsets, which actually supported overclocking actually in the BIOS itself to begin with anyway. That chip was always kind of locked, but you could unlock it with some boards. But unfortunately, the A320 chipset is not one of those. So sorry, no is the answer. You might be able to tweak the memory a little bit, but essentially that is going to be it. So hopefully that's answered your question. And if you've bought that board already, yeah, there's not really a great deal you can do. Alternatively, at the moment there are some really good options. The B350 from ASRock, the Pro 4, and the B450 Pro 4 for not a great deal more money, probably about an extra £15–20 in most locations, is a far superior motherboard with a lot more features and the ability to overclock. So if you haven't bought it yet and you're thinking of buying a board, definitely check out one of the ASRock Pro 4 range. So that is that one. Yeah, this is, I got a question here from Tristan. Now this is again from the i12 TWS factory reset video. My left one is working fine and responding to touch controls, but my right one is unresponsive and just keeps saying power on over and over again. I can't turn it off too. So definitely, Tristan, I think you've fallen into the same category as the previous commenter, where the i12s, there are some pretty janky ones on the market, especially some of the cheaper ones. They didn't use the best of hardware. And even sometimes if they've been accidentally dropped, because there's like a hole sensor or like a touch sensor in there, it's not really a touch sensor, it's more of a tap sensor than a touch sensor. So if it's been tapped or hit, sometimes that sensor can be dislodged and it thinks it's on all the time or thinks it's off all the time. So you either get the thing where it doesn't work at all or where it just will not turn off, which is seemingly what you've got. So unfortunately, again, with yours, I would say that's definitely a hardware fault. I don't think in that particular case you will be able to reset them because the sensor thinks it's being pushed in all the time, so you can't do the taps to reset it. So really all you can do with that is to try and return them, or just buy some new ones, unfortunately. And I hate to say it, but possibly maybe consider spending a little bit more money on some higher end ones. Not saying you bought cheap ones, but potentially if you did, you might want to spend a few more pounds or dollars or whatever it may be and just get a good quality set. Because some of the i12s actually are really good. In fact, I've still got the red label and the blue label ones here up on the shelf, which are still in fine working order. So obviously they came from Nokia's and the Spinning Deal and places like that. So those would be the places I'd recommend to go for, just so you'd get a decent, reliable set. Yeah, I've got another one about i30s. Now, someone said about i30 TWS. I honestly have not tried the i30s. I don't know who makes them or where they come from or what they are the equivalent to. But essentially, if you're having problems with them, the best thing to do is go and get in contact with the original seller. Same goes for you. This is from Cryptic Caesar, actually, in response to the They Won't Charge video. And that was on, where are we? Yeah, Airpod and i10 TWS videos. So again, that video was related to i10s, really, more so. i30s came out a little bit later. I don't know what they are, i30s, I've never heard of them, but same thing goes. Clean all your ports up, make sure that everything's making contacts. Even if need be, get a magnifying glass out and have a really good look. Just make sure there's nothing damaged or scored or loose connections, all that kind of stuff. But give them a clean up, try and charge them. If that don't work, return them. That's the best thing you can do.
Aviante replied, is when he's using them that they bleep. But I don't know.
Alright, Aviante has replied, Kath's just telling me, and you're saying they bleep whilst they're in use. So if it's like a randomly timed bleep, it's probably the touch sensor still. I have found when I've reviewed some of AirPods, just walking down the street, one of them would bleep as if I'd pressed the button, which was like really weird, and I couldn't work out why it was. So even sort of standing still, every now and then you get like a bleep and it would do something, either pause the music or double tap to change a track or whatever. If you're getting that kind of thing where it's bleeping, again, best thing for you to do, it's probably going to be a hardware fault in the buds themselves. I would certainly get in contact with the manufacturer and try and send them back. So moving on to laptops now. This is in response to a really old video actually. This is the Microsoft Surface Shootout, and this is from Explosion. Now Explosion said, I can't decide whether to get the Surface Book 128GB or the Surface Laptop 256GB. The only reason I would want to get the Surface Book over the Surface Laptop is the detachable screen. But then again, the Surface Book would have half the storage. I'm also kind of worried that things will fall in the gap when folded up or stored. There's a little bit more to that, yeah, and scratch the screen. So that was quite a common thing actually. A lot of people were worried about that with the Surface, which one is it? The Surface Book. So the Surface Book, if you haven't seen it already, it's got a weird hinge, so there's quite a big gap in there when you actually fold it round. There isn't really a great deal you can do about that apart from put it into a decent case when you put it in your bag, so a bag within a bag. I would say with the Surface Book and the Surface Laptop, they are exceptionally difficult to upgrade. So if you are kind of thinking of putting a lot of stuff on there, 128 gigabytes isn't a lot these days. I personally wouldn't purchase a 128 gigabyte model SSD, even for a PC, which is easy to replace because it is just a bit too small. Windows 10 itself now, with the updates and stuff and minimal stuff, you're looking at the best part of 40 gigabytes, especially now that Windows takes about 4 to 10 gigabytes for a backup of the OS, so for reinstalling and reinstating that kind of stuff. So I think today in 2019, going 2020, 128 is too small. So 256 will be the way to go. If you can't get the Surface Book with a 256, yeah, I would walk away. 128 is a little bit too small in it this time, especially if you can't really upgrade it, because they are super, super difficult to get inside of and change stuff. And also they're very expensive as well. So do you really want to be spending an absolute ton of money on something which potentially you're going to have to upgrade in a very, very short while? Alternatively, if you don't want to do that, actually what you could use is something like, this is from Silicon Power. This is their portable SSD. This is the Bolt B75 Pro. This is actually an SSD in a caddy, so you can plug this in on your USB Type A ports. It's got USB Type C, but you don't have USB Type C on those Microsoft devices, so you'd be stuck with USB 3 Gen 2, I think, transfer speeds. But again, the bottleneck really is not going to be the drive, is going to be your transfer speeds in the system. This will transfer about 520 megabytes per second. That would be a good idea. You can get something like this. That's a cheap, effective upgrade. You can keep all your storage or your long-term storage on this, move it around. And again, if you're thinking about putting your laptop in your bag, then to put another drive like this in as well isn't going to be the end of the world. These you can pick up for about £60, which for 512 gigabytes is going to give you either double or quadruple your existing storage, and maybe will help you make your mind up. Maybe you can go for the one you prefer with a smaller hard drive or slightly cheaper or whatever it is, and just add one of these onto it. Again, it's something else you've got to carry around, but it might help you out. So hopefully that's going to answer your question. Next question is on the Almost Perfect Micro ATX case. Now this is a great little case which came from GameMax. This is from PD Gaming. PD Gaming says, when will this case be available to buy in other Amazon stores like Spain, France, etc.? Simply the answer to that is I don't know. I have not got a clue. GameMax license in the UK from GameMax, I think it's China, wherever they're actually based. So there's various versions of the company around the world, and they license the products and sell the products through their distribution channels. There's definitely one in the UK. Whether or not the UK office would be prepared to sell to other EU countries, obviously with Amazon, if you're buying through Amazon, you can actually buy from Amazon UK and get sent to Spain, etc., just by changing the address. You will pay a little bit extra for postage, but generally you can do that. I've quite often bought things from abroad, America especially, so you can do that from the global store. Maybe look out for it in the global store, something like that. I will forward this message, excuse me, I'll forward this message to our friends at GameMax and see if they've got any answer for you. So if you want to, you can either send me an email or join the Discord or give me some means of contact, and I will pass either your details on or pass on GameMax's to you, and you can work out between you and see how they can get a case out to you. So hopefully that helps. I haven't given you a really good answer, but we'll try and find out. Here's one from, this is an interesting one. This is how to fix and install AMD Radeon graphics drivers. Now this is from one Appario, or one Appario, I think that's how it's pronounced. The question is, hey, I want your help. Whenever I try to install my AMD graphics drivers, the screen goes black after restart. I can hear startup sound, but with black screen. So by using this trick, can I update my drivers safely? Please help. Waiting for your reply. I've got to be honest with you, I'm trying to think what actually I did in that video. So if you're having problems installing AMD Radeon graphics drivers, there's a couple of options you can do. Now, one of which would be to use the display adapter. What is it called now? It's DDU is a software basically, so you can go in and it removes drivers. So I would personally, in this particular case, I would remove the drivers, the AMD Radeon drivers, uninstall those completely from your system, go into DDU, do a cleanup, make sure they're all taken off. Then I would restart the computer, but with it connected to the internet, and let it install the WHQL drivers from Microsoft, which I know a lot of people out there probably say, oh God, you don't want to do that. But actually, if you're fault finding, that's a really good way of doing it. So do that first of all, let it pull the drivers down from Microsoft. It'll take a little while and then you'll be stuck in Windows Basic mode for a little while. But once it's downloaded the drivers, you'll notice your screen go black and then it'll pop back up, and then you'll have the latest qualified drivers for your particular version of Windows, which generally work okay. I've had a few issues before where certain systems for some reason just wouldn't like having the AMD software installed, but if I let it install the Windows WHQL drivers, absolutely fine, and I've never noticed any difference in performance, which is a good thing. If you want the more advanced features in the Radeon software, then you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper and work out what's causing your problem. It could be a .NET problem because Windows Radeon drivers uses the .NET subsystems to install a lot of its stuff, so that can be a problem. So it's trying to initialize the driver. Because the driver runs through the software and vice versa, they're all kind of interlinked. If there's an issue with the .NET side of it, that can be a problem. But I would say definitely the first thing to do, try that, let Windows install the drivers and see if it works properly. If it works properly like that, all well and good. If not, then you can do the ultimate, you can do the opposite and then disconnect your LAN cable after the reboot, after doing DDU. Make sure you've got the Radeon software downloaded and available on your hard drive, and then without it connected to the internet, then force install it from the Radeon software and see if that improves things. Sometimes you may find it's where the Windows driver and the Radeon driver are both trying to install themselves at the same time, and one overwrites the other with different DLLs and different .NET versions, and it can be a right kerfuffle. So try those things, let us know how you get on. Hopefully that answers your question.
Letters said write DDU in safe mode.
Oh yeah, Letters commented, yeah, DDU is best to use if you can in safe mode. If you're not sure how to get in safe mode, then we've done a video on that, so just go to the Mike's Unboxing channel, type it in, and then just put safe mode, and there's a video on how to get into safe mode. Easy way of doing it, really. Hold the shift key, click on the Windows start button, and then press shutdown, keeping the shift button held down, and that'll put you into safe mode, and then you can go ahead and do that. Obviously make sure you've got DDU downloaded on your desktop, somewhere nice and easy, so you can get it whilst you're in safe mode. So that is, what else we got? Don't want to do another Airpods one because it's getting a bit tiresome now. No, actually saying that, this is, my browser is getting very sluggish now. This is one, I've gone back down a bit further. So this is the USB-C port fix video, which we did a while back. From Mitz Nitros asked the question, can you do a video on the LG Stylo 4 for enabling to fast charge, please? I really need to fast charge my phone and my USB Type-C connection is not working. Well, no, I can't do a video on the LG Stylo, I'm afraid, because I don't own one, so I don't have that hanging around to do. But essentially, fast charging works in a couple of ways. So it looks at resistance in the cable and the charging port to see what it can actually put through safely without overheating. And that's all based on algorithms to do with the charger, the plug, the cable. So the first thing to do is make sure you're using a qualified fast charging plug or power brick. If you're not, if you're just using some kind of generic fast charging brick, not all of them will work. look for the Qualcomm badge on there somewhere, or Qualcomm certification. I think it's Qualcomm Fast Charge 3.0 is one of the ones you want to look out for, or maybe 4.0 depending on which type of fast charge is on your device. Make sure you're using a decent cable as well. Not all cables are made equally, and again, some of the things that I mentioned in the USB port fix video, make sure the ports are actually clean. Give them a good clean with alcohol. Use a wooden toothpick to scrape out the connections and all that kind of stuff, and hopefully that will help you out. Again, I can't do a video on that particular phone because I don't have one, but a USB port is a USB port. They pretty much are the same all around. So as long as you're using a qualified charger, you've got a decent cable and your ports are clean, then you should be able to use fast charge.
Alessa's got that phone and it charges faster from the wall.
Oh, right, Aletta has actually commented, which is quite handy, that she's actually got that phone, the LG Stylo version 4, and it charges much faster if you're doing it from the wall. So depending on what you're actually charging from, you haven't actually said where you're plugging it into, whether it's a wall charger, a USB socket, or whatever it is. But yeah, try plugging it straight into the wall, and that's quite a shocker because I never thought I'd see Aletta say that she's got a phone. I have to sit down. Oh no, I am sitting down. What else have we got then? So, that's another Airpods one. Someone's already answered that. Thank you very much. Now, Red Eye Studios, thank you if you're watching this or you are catching up. There was a question on the i10 video, and Red Eye Studios have gone in and answered it and cleared things up for me. So that's very useful. If any of you else want to do that, you're more than welcome to answer questions. It's all good. Actually, this is one which is a kind of a question which has been asked, and someone else has actually answered it for me, and it's basically what I would have said anyway, in some respects. This comes from Mian Fiesta Dukasin. Sorry if I've annihilated your name. This is again was the i12 TWS factory reset video. They were saying, mine doesn't charge at all, the case isn't charging, and to think I just bought it yesterday, just wasted my money. Now, luckily, Gary S1998 or S1998 is actually replied saying, try pushing the charging cable in harder. The cable should fit properly into the box. Then you'll see a red light if the cable is loose. If it's not pushed in properly, that's what's causing it. Yeah, that is what was causing mine not to recharge. So yeah, to kind of, I didn't really say that particularly well, and maybe that's not their native language, but essentially sometimes the cables just need pushing in that little bit further. Sometimes, depending on the cable you've got, if you're not using the one that came with the box itself, or maybe you are getting the one that came with the box and they've not quite been trimmed the plastic properly, so it doesn't fully push all the way in, just try another cable, make sure that they're fully going in. And normally you'll see that the plastic surrounding actually sits flush with the plastic housing of the Airpods or whatever device it is. So just look for any small gaps. If you can see a small metal gap between the charging plug and the unit, then it's not being pushed in all the way and there's something either stopping it from being pushed in or there's a problem with the cable. So just look out for those sort of things. I think that is pretty much it. There's so many other questions in here which I need to get in and answer, which I will do. I will get around to sooner or later. Well, I think that's pretty much going to be it for the YouTube questions for tonight. So again, if you've got questions that you want answered and you're replying to the videos, then just put the word live in caps so I can actually sort of go through and filter them out, and I will try and answer your questions. So I'm going to go through now and see all of your guys' chat comments and see what you've been saying and say a few good evenings. So we've got Captain Meets Adventures, good evening to you. Welsh Tony's Reviews and Guides, he's in as well. Thank you for joining us. British Noob's in. Nins47's about. Angry Doge. Ability 10. Glenn's in the house as well. Johnny Boy. Bucky Cat. Pixelbyte. Mr. Jason TM2386. That's an interesting name. Galaxia and Avanti Boss is in as well. Russ B, Bosnian programmer. Wow, Custom Adventurous is in the house as well, saying keep up the good work. Thank you, mate. Yeah, I'm doing all these AirPod videos like you do. I would hate to see what your comment section is like. It must be absolutely horrendous. Custom Adventurous, if you didn't know, guy over in America who's doing some fantastic reviews on AirPods and clones and stuff. Really, really getting into the groove of it. I've got to be honest with you, I am actually getting to the point now with these AirPod reviews where I'm starting to lose the will to live. The new ones, the AirPod Pros, I don't like. I'll be completely honest, I do not like them. And now that there's a load of them coming onto the market, I keep on getting sent them for reviews. I've had a couple come in today which have been causing me no end of problems. And yeah, anyway, moving on. So, questions. What have I missed out on? So, who's saying? Is there any questions in here? Sorry, this is very unprofessional. I'll find the questions eventually. They're in here somewhere. Oh, there's an interesting one. Mr. Jason TM2386. That's a very memorable username. Can you recommend anything like MSI Command Center for hardware monitoring? Pixelbyte's already come in and given you a pretty good answer. Hardware Info 64 is really good. I actually like using CPU ID and hardware monitor. Both of those I've used pretty much since they came out, and I really do enjoy using those. And they're very, very easy to use, very simple, and they don't cost you anything as well. And they're quite user friendly in that respect. But yeah, hardware monitor is also a good one as well if you can get it.
British Noob wants to know why he's amazing.
British Noob. Aletta says, I just happened to come to YouTube and saw the live stream was going on. Yeah, it was a little bit impromptu. I was going to do it last night, but we had family visiting, so we tried kicking them out, but they just wouldn't leave. They just wanted to stay. So unfortunately, we've put it off and we've done it tonight. Because at the moment I've got like a really weird working pattern, so I don't know whether we're going to do this every Monday. Maybe we will, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Essentially, Monday, pretty much for most people, is like, oh God, it's the beginning of the week. Such drudgery, what is going on? So I thought it'd be nice just to give you something to watch on a Monday night, because what's on a Monday night? It's rubbish TV. Not many people have uploaded videos, so it gives you something to watch, doesn't it? Even if you just close it in a tab and just fall to sleep to it.
Make sure you do it from playlist.
Yeah, make sure you stick on a playlist if you're going to do that.
Russ B did a swap, a Nokia phone for Asus Chromebook C434. Is it any good?
Oh, right, okay. Russ B's saying, did a swap, a Nokia phone for an Asus Chromebook C434. Is it any good, Mike? Asus Chromebooks themselves are very good. Chromebooks themselves, I've never really taken to them. The whole idea of being kind of constantly connected to actually use most of the services on it is a little bit of a weird concept for me, especially in the UK where we've got pretty much, let's face it, crap broadband. So actually trying to stay connected on a device is really difficult. You are slightly limited on what apps you can use, although saying that, the Chromebook apps are getting better and better. There's a ton of Android apps out there, although probably a large majority and they're a bit shady and you don't want to touch it. Also, Google itself, Google Chrome or Android itself, which essentially is what it's based on, or Chromium I suppose you would say more so. There are so many exploits in Chrome and also Chromium and Android that it's just quite a terrifying operating system or kind of platform to be involved in. Every single day I go into my feed on my Google feed on my iPhone, nearly said Android phone, and almost every day there's a new ransomware or a new bunch of apps which have got dodgy stuff going on them. And I think that essentially is what is going to kill off Android. If they don't do something with it soon, I think Android as an operating system is going to lose its grip. Very much like Microsoft Internet Explorer did when Chrome came out. I can see the same thing happening. I can see people leaving Google in their droves if they don't sort out a security issue, or at least have something in place so that people can't keep on uploading these shady apps to the App Store, because it's killing off the ecosystem, it really is. But to answer your question, yeah, the Asus Chromebook C464, yeah, it's a great little device, very portable. From what I can remember, it's actually got like an absolutely stellar battery life. So if you're taking it away for a weekend or I don't know, whatever you're doing with it, you don't have to be worrying about tethering yourself to a battery port. I see Galaxian's actually in the chat here. We spoke a little bit earlier about your AirPods, so they're i666s. Now that immediately throws up alarm bells. i666, the number of the beast. They are possessed earbuds. So saying they won't charge anymore, I clean them and they do nothing. What can I do? The AirPods were new. Essentially, again, just to go over some of the things I've already said tonight, if you've got new AirPods and they're not working as they should do, don't even hesitate, just send them back. Let the person you know how dissatisfied you are with the service and the product. Maybe hopefully get an upgrade to another model or something like that, or get your money back or whatever it is. But yeah, there are so many AirPods on the market, especially now in the run up to Christmas. There's companies just literally throwing them out the door, trying to get those few pennies in their pockets before the sales are over and all that kind of stuff. And there is some really, really poor quality AirPods out on the market at the moment. It's really sad actually, because when I first started doing the reviews of AirPods, I really enjoyed it because they were really good quality generally. A few issues with the i12s and i10s that have come out on the market, but the ones that I've actually received, touch wood, have all been really good, and I've still got them on the shelf. And the ones that I've actually recommended to people and they've bought them from Nokia's and that, yeah, I've had very, very little problems or very little feedback with any issues. So yeah, I can't complain there. But the cheap ones are really starting to really annoy. Where's me? Boxmate, why do you have my mother's board? I don't want another stepdad. I don't quite get that, but it's quite good.
But I like his box.
Yeah, your box is cool. Actually, your icon looks very, very similar to what my old logo used to be. Oh, that's nice.
You've got your little logo in the bottom corner, look. It's different.
Oh yeah. Yeah, look in the bottom corner for where you subscribe and you'll see there's the box. It looks the same.
Not quite. Different angle.
Da-da.
We used to have that box, didn't we?
Ollie Hackett's asked the question, have you had any problems with the i12 TBS case not charging? I dropped them and they stopped charging, but I've tapped it a few times and now the pods will charge, but not the case. I think you know what the answer is to that. If you've dropped them and they're not charging, something inside is dislodged. Now the way these little batteries and connectors are soldered on the inside is so easy if you drop them to get a dry joint and for that to be the end of it. Essentially, unless you're a dab hand with a soldering iron and you fancy getting busy with a Dremel and cutting it open, you might find some luck. If not, I would, again, as I keep on saying, is to send them back to where you got them. I think that is it. Matthew Day says it's not Saturday. No, it's not. It is Monday, and it's a very weird thing. Aletta says it's snowing in Ohio.
But we did answer Matthew Day's question in our live stream.
Yes, we did answer. Yeah, we did actually. Did we answer Matthew Day's question?
Answer it, we just commented on it.
Which one was that?
It was something to do with the Alice.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah, Matthew. Yeah, we talked about your comment earlier actually on the InWin Alice case. And yeah, I totally agree with you actually. It's such a weird thing for that InWin Alice case to have the motherboard I/O at the top of the chassis. And that is really, really kind of perplexing me a little bit, because I actually did want to put the InWin Alice behind me here to replace this one. But I don't know if I can cope with the wires sticking out the top. Maybe when I do the build, we'll take a look and see what it's like, so we'll see. Captain Meets Adventure says, just bought some Alexa strip lights. Nice one. Okay, so I think that pretty much is going to wrap things up. This has gone a little bit longer than I intended to, but we'll try and answer your questions live. Some of them live anyway, so hopefully they won't all be i10 and i12 TWS questions. If it is going to get like that, then I will put a heading in the video saying answering your questions, and I will put specifics on there like I did tonight. So it's mostly AirPods and motherboards, which I anticipated, and as if by magic I was absolutely right. So oh, Angry Dodge says, Mike, can you read what I said a few comments up? I must have missed that.
How it's building the actual PC easier than the actual downloading drivers.
Right, yeah. How is building the actual PC easier than actually downloading drivers and finding the right parts to build your PC? Yeah, it's never straightforward. Even for those that have been doing it for a long time, you always find that sometimes there's just something a little quirky which doesn't always work, which is why quite a lot of us tend to stick with our brands. So there's certain people that will only buy gigabyte motherboards or ASRock motherboards or whatever, just because it's what they know and they've had good experiences with it and it's absolutely fine. But then you get to a point where, as with most manufacturers, something goes wrong and then you kind of once bitten twice shy, so then you jump ship to another manufacturer and you stick with them for a while. Same with processors, RAM, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and drivers can be a real pain in the butt. Edward Cuss is into the chat, says, hi Mike, how's it going? Yeah, it's not going too bad. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit, so that's not a great sign. I'm going to go all Linus in a minute. So anyway, hopefully I've answered some of your questions. If you wanted any of your questions answered in a live stream, which we'll try and do again, it might be a Sunday night, it might be a Monday night. We're going to have to work on that. It might be alternating, but it'll be around about that sort of thing. So yeah, that is pretty much it.
Jonathan Dooley's just asked a question.
Oh, Jonathan Dooley's just asked a question. It's going to be like this now. Hi, can you tell me how to get rid of the mute icon and fix the sound on the Amazon Fire Stick? I'm not too sure how to get rid of the mute icon, unless it's muted already. If it's muted, then you'll have the icon. I'm not too sure, Jonathan. I'll look into that and maybe I'll do a dedicated video on that. We'll see. Edward Cuss. Does Mike still have that 420 AIO for sale? Now, there's actually an interesting story behind that. Yes, I do, but we have noticed in Kath's one, and also the one, where's, oh no, I've taken it out now. They were making some weird noises, like water gushing noises. So at the moment, I'm kind of holding back on them. I'm not too sure what I'm going to do with them. I might just return them to Amazon or something because they don't sound entirely right. Whether it's a design fault, whether they're supposed to sound like that, I don't know. I've not owned one before, but I'm kind of selling them, but I'm kind of not. I'm a little bit unsure. Anyway, hopefully that answers your question. Matthew Day says, IOBit driver booster works well for drivers. Yeah, actually, I've never used that. Maybe I should do that in a video as well. Anyway, that's going to wrap things up. Thanks for all those that joined us tonight, and for those of you that are watching this stream after, because we've tagged you in it on your comment and you're watching your answer. Hopefully you've answered your question, and if you've got any more questions, feel free to join Discord chat or to reply to the comment, or join us on a live stream on a Saturday night or on a Sunday or Monday, depending on which it ends up being. But again, thank you all for joining in. Hopefully it hasn't been too boring for those of you, and been a little bit entertaining. And again, most of you have had a chat with yourselves in the community, so you all know each other. So it's just like I'm like a third wheel here. Anyway, I'm Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next live stream. Thanks for watching.